Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are with Mr. Mike Chan, the CEO of a chain of anti-aging and laser clinics called Lumiere Skin. So, welcome.
Hi, thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for
coming.
having me.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much.
being here.
It's my
Thank
Yes,
you so
pleasure.
much.
I like the setup. I love the vibe.
thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So, maybe we can start by you giving us a little background about yourself so the viewers get to know you, maybe from when you were younger and what sparked the interest in you to pursue this path.
Sure. Okay. So, again, as you said, my wife and I run a chain of anti-aging clinics. So, for the past 10 years or so, we have been helping people reverse human aging, right? The physiologic aging process. And I got into this. So, here's the funny story. Um, I was a first-time father very late in life. Um, my wife is much younger. She's 22 years my junior, and I was
That's
47.
perfect.
That's a perfect age. Yes, yes, yes. So I was 47 when I discovered that my wife and I were having a baby. So my first baby, I was 47 years old when she conceived, and this is a true story. So when she was having her checkups, she goes to me, "Daddy, you should have a checkup of your own because you're old, and I want to be sure that my daughter will have a father,
Of
right,
course,
who will
yes.
be around
Yeah.
for a long time." So it got me thinking. Okay, and here's the funny story. The backstory is I've been an athlete all my life. I swam for my alma mater, Xavier. I played varsity tennis for LaSalle like you guys, very active. And so I thought because I was active, because I was, living the healthy lifestyle,
Yes.
I thought that was enough to keep father time at bay, right? I was better off speaking, I was much better off than a lot of my peers who were already in their mid 40s, getting the belly, getting the hypertension. I had none of those. I was getting a bit heavy around the midsection, but I thought it was just, part of the aging process, as we've all been told. And so I said, yes, sure, I'll have the checkup. I did the checkup, and I got the results a week later. When I came to the doctor, I fully expected the doctor to say, "Oh, Mr. Chan, I can't believe you're 47. Still
Yeah.
very good, right?" Instead, when I walk in, he goes, "Okay, Mr. Chan, just so you know, you're already pre-diabetic. Your cholesterol is high. We're going to have
Oh,
to start
wow.
you off on these medications." And I was floored.
Yeah.
Doctor, what should I do? I'm already exercising. I'm lifting weights four or five times a week. Um, I'm eating whole cereal,
Yes.
organic this, organic that. And then he goes, "Oh, Mr. Chan, that's just part of the aging process. It's inevitable and you have to accept, right?" And I said to the doctor, "Doc, give me a few weeks to think about this because if I do the maintenance medications, how long will I be on the meds?" And he goes, "For
Right.
life.
Oh.
You have to be in it for life, right?" And so I leave the doctor's office. It's in the back of my head. And then a few weeks later, my baby girl was born. Are any of you parents?
Sam.
I am.
Yeah.
You are?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you know what it's like when you first hold your baby in your arm.
Yes. Amazing.
It's amazing. It's all of a sudden your life turns upside down, and I realize I have to be around for a very long time for this little girl, right? So I did pre-law in college because I love to read. When I took my baby home from the hospital the very next day, I committed myself 2 hours of uh, medical videos on diabetes, hypertension, and metabolic syndrome, and 2 research papers a day. So half my day, every single day, since that time until now, I have been reading research papers. I've been watching I basically taught myself medicine because I could not accept what the doctor was saying that I had to be on meds.
That's so interesting.
And true enough, 2 years later, I go back, have my tests done. Everything is complete 180. So now I have the blood work of a 39-year-old, right? And my anthropometric markers, they're of a much younger man. I started to lose the belly fat. I stopped going to the gym. And I realized if you did certain things, if you gave the body what it needed, you really, a lot of the things that we thought we needed to do, I have to be very, very strict with the diet. I have to go to the gym and lift. I have to run. You really don't need to do a lot of that. Right?
That's awesome. So
That's
let's
interesting.
dive in. This is super interesting because I don't want to age. So, what can people do? Like a couple of things that people can do daily to slow down the aging part.
So
right?
there's a lot, right? Um, in my book, so I wrote a book about it. So it's called The Science of Aging Well: How to Look 20 Years Younger. There's a lot you can do. The very, very first thing is to establish a baseline. Where are you right now? And then try to see where you want to be. That's the difference between something called a biological age and a chronological age.
Yes, yeah.
So maybe that would be a good place to start for your viewers. I was born in 1970, right? So chronologically, according to my birth certificate, I'm 52 years old.
Yeah.
But if you look at my biological age or how old the body actually is, the remaining function that's left in your body, my blood markers, my anthropometric markers, they are that of a 38-year-old male.
And you look so young.
Yes, guys.
Thank you so much.
You look
Thank,
so
you,
young.
thank you so
You
much.
basically reversed aging.
Basically,
That's-
yes. Basically, see, what happens is, do you notice that people who are obese or who are diabetic, they tend to look older than their age,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
If a person is obese or has hypertension, they would tend to look older,
True.
right?
Yeah.
Of 99 out of 100. And the reason is because your skin, it's an organ, right? It's an organ just like your heart, just like your liver, just like your pancreas, just like your spleen. And the body is systemic. The skin is the only organ that you can see from outside. Everything else is inside. But the health of your skin is actually a very, very good reflection of the health of your
Okay, what's
Internal.
inside?
what's
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah,
Oh yes,
really.
yes. The intrinsic aging is what we address. So what do I mean when I say my blood markers? So in the field of anti-aging, we have certain longevity clocks. So these are called deep aging clocks. Right now, you can actually use these clocks to measure your biological age. So Sam, you're
33.
33, right? And you're 30. We can take your blood sample,
sample,
we
yeah.
can take your DNA, and we can take an MRI and see how old your heart is, your liver is, your kidneys are, the brain in relation to your actual age. And the studies are very, very clear. If you're younger in these aging clocks, let's say you're 28 in these aging clocks, or you're 25 versus your actual age, you tend to live 5 to 10 years more
More. Okay.
than a person who is older than their chronological age, right? So if you're 33, but your biological clock says 35, 36, 37, that's not a good sign.
So what are the factors that, sorry to cut you, but
Sure.
I'm just curious, what are the factors that contribute to you being older than your age?
Right. Very, very
Like
interesting
some
question.
lifestyle choices, maybe?
A lot of it is lifestyle. Most of it is actually lifestyle. So here's the thing. A lot of people think it's genetic, right? It's genetic. But the science is very, very clear on that. Your genes account for roughly less than 20% of the rate at which you age, right? Less than 20%. 80% is epigenetics, or what is the epigenome? So your genes basically is the blueprint of your body. It's the instructions manual, right? So it has some fixed characteristics: your height, your eye color, your hair color, right? So those are genetic. You inherit that from your mother and father. You can think of it as like a cookbook, right? All the ingredients, all the recipes are in there. But the epigenome, or the step above the genes, that is the chef. The chef decides which ingredients to use, what recipes to make, right? So you can have a gene called the FTO gene, so it's the fat gene. If you have this gene, you're predisposed to obesity. It's
Okay.
easier for you to gain weight. But if you live correctly, if you diet, if you sleep correctly, you don't activate that gene. So it's there, but it's never expressed. So even if you
that's
have it,
interesting.
you can still
Okay.
remain. So when people say, "Oh yeah, my parents were overweight,"
So
so
somehow
that's why
it's
I,
an excuse.
no,
Yeah.
it's never an excuse, because 80% is controlled by you. So in the book, I talk about 5 key things, right? Your nutrition, right? Nutrition, I don't like to use the word diet because diet implies eating less.
Yes.
And it's actually not how we're designed to eat, right? So I teach people to eat more, right? There's the nutrition. Tell me if you want to go through everything one by one, or I can just keep going.
Let's have the few things first.
Right.
Yeah.
So number one is your nutrition. Number two is your movement. I don't like to use the word exercise. Number three
Okay.
is your sleep. Number four is your environmental exposure. And number five is the quality of your relationships, right?
Interesting.
Right.
Wow.
So if you want to go, so these are what the science shows that affect your health span and lifespan.
Okay, so these are the basic things that activates your longevity.
There you go. Bingo. So,
So the diet, let's go through diet. What is it that we
The nu-
can't eat?
Yeah.
the nutrition.
Yes.
The
nutrition,
yeah.
right?
Nutrition.
Is
Yeah.
there one thing that works for everyone, or does does it vary for everyone?
Very
Because
interesting.
for me, sometimes when I fast or I don't eat, I feel much better, right? But not every day, of course.
Right.
I don't know how I feel that way because I don't know the details of it. It's just a feeling that I have. So maybe we can dive into that.
Those are very deep questions, okay? And the answers are very, very nuanced. But let me start with what to eat, right?
Yeah.
Basically, the general rule of thumb is you can eat anything you want as long as it's a whole food. And when I say a whole food, as it crawls, as it swims, as it walks, as it runs, as it flies, as it grows from the ground or grows from the trees, as long as they are not altered, you can basically eat it, right? So why is that important? So what most people don't realize is that to them, chicken is chicken, beef is beef, whether it's a burger, whether it's, right? But very, very different things,
Yeah.
right? So all animals have a built-in calorie counting system, right? It's located in our small intestine. It's called our incretin system, and it's trained to detect nutrients. When you're eating the correct foods, that system is your perfect calorie counting system. It will tell you exactly when to eat and when to stop eating. And this is the same system that all animals use to remain weight stable. Okay?
Okay.
So think about this. Humans, it's very, very common for humans to start getting fatter once they're past their mid-20s, right? It's very, very common. You look around you, go to the malls, go to the restaurants, any public place,
Yeah.
anyone who's over 35 will already have the
Right.
beginnings of a belly, right? And then why do you think this is?
Because food is everywhere.
Food is everywhere, but you know what most older people say, it's because your
Metabolism
Metabolism
slows down. That's
slows
the
down.
most common thing we hear.
That's the most
Yes.
common thing that you hear, right? So it's very, very common for people to gain weight as they get older, but it's definitely not normal. So there's a very big difference between common and normal, okay? If you look around you in the natural world, no other animal, no other wild animal gets significantly fatter as it gets older, right? You will never look up in the sky and see a
yeah.
chubby bird trying to fly because it's
So why
older.
does it happen to us?
There you go.
Yeah.
Very, very right. So it's all about habits.
Yeah.
But to start with food, since we're there, we're the only animals that can eat artificial foods. Every other animal on Earth
Processed.
has to eat foods that they are designed to eat,
Yes, yeah.
right? Because they're in the wild, they eat what nature provides. And when you eat that way, nature tells you when to stop. So that's signaling, a satiety. So there are hormones called CCK, peptide YY, that when you're genuinely full with the correct foods, it sends a signal to your brain, there's food, stop eating. I have enough energy, stop eating. Because think about this, if you're genuinely full and I force you to eat some more, right? What happens?
You don't want to eat.
You don't want to eat,
Yeah.
right? You get nauseous, and if I
Yeah.
force you, you throw up. That's nature guarding you against over-consuming calories. Because your body knows that if you over-consume, you're going to get sick.
True.
So the fatter people get, what happens? Hypertension, diabetes, stroke, heart disease, right? Overconsumption of calories. That doesn't happen in nature. Because when you're eating, watch a lion. When it makes a kill, it will gorge itself. It will gorge itself, right? It's not no other
Yes,
animal on earth
yes.
will voluntarily restrict calories. No other animal on earth knows how to do portion control or calorie counting. It will gorge itself, and once it's full, it will walk away.
That's
Right?
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will
True.
walk away.
And they have
Right?
to work hard for the kill too.
There you go,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
they will not waste energy exercising. When they make a kill, what do they do after? When they're fully satiated, they go and sleep, right?
Yeah.
Animals are masters of conserving calories. Why? Because in nature, calories are not free. You have to
Exactly.
spend calories
yeah.
to get calories, right? And because you have to do that, calories are very, very highly conserved. Animals will sleep most of the day and only go out to hunt, right? You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying,
And
right?
everything is seasonal too.
Everything's
Yeah.
seasonal, but unlike us, calories are free. If I want to eat, pick
Just
up the
order.
phone,
Yes.
right? Hello, Food
You don't
Panda.
even need to
You
stand
don't
up.
even need to stand
Yeah.
up.
So no effort, food is everywhere.
Zero
And then
effort,
ask
right?
your helper, go get the food. You're still there.
Right.
But go.
Exactly. Zero effort.
Zero.
So the strategy of diet and exercise, they say that 99% of all dieters will regain the weight that they lost within a year, right? Because the strategy is totally wrong. You're trying to eat less and exercise more, but if you look around you in nature, they're actually eating to their fill, and they're not going around jogging after
Right.
they eat
Yeah.
to
Yes.
waste calories. But there you go. Again, going back to the example that I was giving about whole foods, right? That incretin system, that natural calorie counting system, that will only work when you're eating whole foods. So I'm going to give you an example. You're a big guy. You're big guys. Let's say I wanted to give you 1,000 calories, right? I want to give you 1,000 calories. I'm going to give you one whole organic chicken. That's about 1.5 kilos of chicken, right?
Yeah.
So how many chickens will you usually eat in one sitting?
Probably
Half a chicken.
Half a chicken,
Yes.
right?
half
And then you don't want to eat anymore, right?
Yes.
You're satiated, you don't feel like eating anymore. That's 500 calories. Let me change the scenario. I'll give you another 1,000 calories. This time I'm going to give you 2 honey glazed Krispy Kreme donuts. That's about 1,000 calories, right? So, if you're not worried about gaining weight, how many can you realistically eat in one sitting?
6.
6, right? I can eat a whole box. I tried it before I learned all this. I would eat a whole box. That's around 4,000
Yeah.
calories. And then you're hungry again 3 hours later.
Right.
Why is the whole food, which is 500 calories, you don't want to eat anymore, and you're satiated the rest of the day, and yet I give you 4,000 calories of this processed food? I'm giving extreme examples, right? But 4,000 calories, so it's not about calories, right? It's about nutrients. And whole foods are packed with nutrients. That's what your body is detecting. It's not the calories.
So the quality of the food that
The
you put into
quality
your
of the
body.
quality.
Exactly. That's what ultimately matters. So when I say whole foods, just so the audience knows what I'm talking about, like, is bread the whole foods? For me, it's not, right? It doesn't grow out of the ground as bread, right?
True.
Like white rice doesn't grow from the ground as white rice. So when I say whole foods, as it grows from the ground, as it swims, as it flies,
Yeah.
fish is different from fish fillet. So beef is different from a beef burger, right? So when it's processed,
Okay,
when there's
yeah.
fats and stuff like that added, even the fats, right? Canola oil, very, very different from avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil.
So
Interesting.
nutrition affects the metabolism,
Oh, for sure.
and metabolism affects your aging.
You should be an anti-aging scientist
Yeah.
because that's exactly
Start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is
I'm
a
going
stepping
to
stone.
make
That's
it like
exactly-
super basic for everyone because I
Right.
have no idea.
right.
Yeah.
So
the
please
next-
stop me. Yeah, do
Yeah.
this because
So
I tend to
Yeah. So the next one is movement.
movement.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the reason why I say movement and not exercise is because if I say exercise, people would think, oh, I have to. What does it mean? I have to spend an hour in the gym? Does it mean I have to do yoga or Pilates? So no, exercise is not necessary, but movement is mandatory. So right. So you don't have to exercise, but you do have to move. Why? Because the human animal is a heterotroph, right? A heterotroph is an organism that cannot make its own food. A plant is an autotroph, so it just sits there, collects energy from the sun and from the soil, and it can make its own food, right? Animals can't do that. Humans can't do that. And so we were designed to move. We were given skeletal muscle and bone for locomotion, so we can eat. So you notice the more you move, the thinner and fitter you become. The less you move, the fatter and the sicker you
Right.
become, right? So when I say movement, I don't mean you have to go somewhere and do some formal exercise, but there are certain basics. Walking If there was one drug that I could give a person that will dramatically slow down the aging process, walk an hour a day. Walking for an hour a day, which is the most natural movement for humans, right? It's not even running.
Yeah.
You don't even need to jog. You don't even need to do the marathons. Most of the benefit that you will get from these exercises, you can get from an hour of walking, right? So,
Interesting.
so what I instruct my clients to do is use a tracker and try to get 10,000 steps a day, right? There's nothing magical about 10,000 steps, but here's the logic behind it. If you will to walk for 30 minutes in the morning and walk again for 30 minutes in the afternoon, in between the rest of your day, going to the bathroom, going to your chores, you should get 10,000 steps. If you're not getting 10,000 steps, that means you're too sedentary during the day.
Okay.
Because our ancestors would walk easily 16,000 steps,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
right? 12 to 16 kilometers, sorry. 10,000 steps is about four kilometers. Our ancestors would walk 3 or 4 times that in a day.
Wow.
So that's our biological design.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So, and also another important thing is resistance training,
Resistance
right?
training.
We were made to carry stuff. When we would make a kill, we would have to carry it back to our camp. We would have to carry stones and wood for building houses, and the women would have to carry the young, right? So the reason why the skeletal muscle is very, very important, right? It's because that is your main organ of longevity. The more skeletal muscle you have, the longer you live, period. So this is not guesswork. This is really the science talking.
Right.
So when they measure the older adults with grip strength or the gait speed, the more muscle you have, you will always outlive a person who is frail, right? And the way you can preserve your skeletal muscle is to use it.
So how long of exercise is
I do
ideal?
15 minutes a day.
15 minutes.
I do
Body
15
weight?
Body weight calisthenics. I've stopped going to the gym just because I realized I really didn't need to do that. If I took my muscles to failure or close to failure, then I would get most of the maintenance that I need in order to keep the muscle. So 15 minutes a day tops for me. 15
So
minutes.
somehow every day you should put your body through a bit of pressure.
Well, yes.
Okay, a
Yes.
bit of pressure.
Uh,
To just,
yeah.
you know,
So it's called a hormetic stress.
Stress, yes.
So people think stress is bad. So, oh, stress is bad. No, chronic stress is bad. But stress is actually good. The right kind of stress. You need stress in order to develop, right?
Okay.
You need stress in order to grow. And the right kind of stress, heat, cold, resistance
So cold
training.
plunge,
Oh,
sauna,
yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's,
Sauna
it's
is so
so
good.
good. Why is
Oh,
it so
yeah.
good?
So it goes back to the metabolism. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to freewheel it from here,
Yeah.
okay? It goes back to the metabolism. The way your body produces energy is through a bacteria in your cells. It's called the mitochondria. So high school biology, you have a bacteria inside your cells, inside the cells, that take the food that you eat and convert that chemical energy into electrical energy. So that energy is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And you need this energy for all of your physical functions. The mitochondria, when you stress it, just like, here's a simple analogy. If I forced you to lift heavy weights, what happens? Your body becomes stronger because it has to adapt to that stress.
Right.
Otherwise, it will die. It's the same with the mitochondria. If you subject it to extreme heat, right, it has to adapt. And the way it adapts is it forms new mitochondria. It regenerates.
Yes.
It makes itself stronger so that it's able to cope with the different stressors. Same with cold, right? And so when you do this, it's like you're working out your mitochondria. And the more mitochondria you have, so one of the hallmarks of aging, older people do not have mitochondria. I mean, they do, but it's much less.
less, yeah.
And the mitochondria is weak. They don't produce as much energy as when you're young. And if you do the sauna, you build your mitochondria. That gives energy for all of the cells in your body to keep on functioning. They can
That's
work
so
20
interesting. So it's
Very.
actually simple. Up
Oh,
until
very.
now.
Up
Up
until
until
now.
now, it's actually
It's
pretty
simple.
simple.
Actually, very, very simple.
Things people can do, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So before we leave the sauna, that in Sweden they did the studies. So men who do sauna 4 or 5 times a week, their risk of heart disease, of
Yes, I
stroke
know.
Yes.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
40%, almost 50% less.
Yeah.
That's
Right?
huge. Yeah.
That's huge.
It's huge.
Huge.
So if you have this space at home,
Right.
buy a sauna.
Right. Right. So I actually do. I have one at
Yes.
home, and I every night, 15 minutes. That's all you need.
Amazing.
Same with the cold.
So what's
Cool,
the
cool.
next one?
Right.
Third one?
The third one is sleep. Okay, so here's where a lot of you young people get
Yeah.
this wrong.
We don't care
Yes.
much, yeah.
Bang,
Right.
sleep. Okay.
So the human animal is the only animal in the world that will deliberately put off sleep, right? No other animal on earth will do that.
Why is that?
And this, well, because of Netflix, because of your
Yeah,
social
distractions,
media,
everything,
because
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
distractions.
All the availability of dopamines.
There you go. There you go. All the stimulants,
Yeah,
right?
stimulants.
So we've been trained to think that if I can get by on less sleep, I am more productive. I am a tougher person. Oh, you only sleep for 4 hours a night. You don't realize that that is dramatically accelerating the aging process. And when I say dramatically, you know that when you don't get the proper amount of sleep, the following day you feel haggard,
It's-
you look older,
yeah.
right? Imagine doing that chronically for years. So most people chronically undersleep, and they don't realize it because they've trained their body to get by on so little sleep.
Yeah.
So they think, yeah, I can still function. But there's a very, very big difference between functioning optimally and just functioning, right? And most people, as they get older, they begin to blame age. They'll say, yeah, I don't have as much energy because I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
Or because they don't realize that if I can fix your sleep, fix that for 3 weeks, you'd be a totally different person.
Is it ever too late? Let's say in your 20s and 30s, you didn't sleep much because you were
Right.
going out, you were busy,
Right.
you were
Especially
working so
us.
hard.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
you were
it's-
doing a lot of stuff. And then by the time you reach 35, 40, you realize that, okay, it's time for me to actually take care of this
That's
stuff.
a very, very good question. And here's the thing, right? Young people, yes, you can still fix it when you're young. The older you get, the harder it's going to be, right? So imagine a car. If I crash it against something, yes, I can fix it, but it's not going to be the same, right? If I have a brand new car and I take care of it, if something goes wrong, yeah, just replace it and it's done, right? If I don't take care of it, I crash it somewhere. So the younger you are, because you're healthier when you're younger, the easier it is for the body to repair itself, right? So it has to do with your immune functions, your immune cells. So most people think their immune cells, they're only there to fight off an infection. When you get a virus or a bacteria, then your immune. No, the way the body keeps itself young is it regenerates every single day, right? Old cells are being replaced by new cells, right? And it's your immune cells that do that job. So every day you're breaking down bone and you're building bone. Every day you're breaking down muscle and you're building back muscle. That's how the human body works. It's like a brick wall. I replace the old parts, put them just to keep it new, right?
Okay.
And the soldiers that do that are your immune functions. So the reason why that's tied up to sleep is because if you are deprived of sleep, so for example, I cut your sleep in half tonight. The following day, your immune functions drop by 70%.
Yeah.
70%. That's
That's a
how
lot.
dramatic
That's a
it
lot.
is.
Yeah.
A lot.
That's
Yeah,
a
if you
lot.
don't get a sleep, if you don't get proper amount of sleep, the following day, think about it. It's like you're drunk the whole day. It's actually in the same class as being inebriated, right? You're half a step slower. Your cognitive functions aren't there. You're moody. It's because
Yeah.
of that, right?
And the fifth one is
No,
Oh, the
fourth
fourth
one.
one.
Fourth
Fourth
one.
one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the fourth one is environmental exposure. So this is something that most people have zero idea about. So imagine this. The human animal, we have been around for, as a Homo sapien, we've been around for 200,000 years. And in 99.999% of that time, right, all throughout when we were evolving, we spent 90% of our lives outdoors, under the sun, in direct contact
Yes,
with the
yeah.
soil and the bacteria and the germs around us. And now, in the last 50 years, we've managed to flip that scenario completely upside down. Now we're 90% indoors. We sleep in air-conditioned rooms. We're away from the sun. When you get out in the morning, you get to your car, get to the office, you're here the whole day, you go home. Hardly anyone ever goes out, right? And what most people don't realize is that the human body was designed around the stressors of sunlight. right? Vitamin D, everybody knows that, right? Vitamin D, you get it when UVB from the sun
Yes.
hits your skin and converts cholesterol into vitamin D, right? So now a lot of people are saying, oh, I have low vitamin D and my cholesterol is sky high because you don't have sunlight.
Don't
So
have
the
sun.
pandemic and the lockdown aged so many people.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
true.
That's why
true. That's
people
true.
got so frustrated.
That's
right?
true. That's
the
true.
mood is bad. Immune
The-
system is
exactly,
bad.
exactly. So that's just one very, very basic example of how your environment physically affects your body. And the reason why animals, they don't age the way we do. So for the typical average human being now, in the middle of your life at around 40, you already begin to get sick, right? So
Yeah.
by the time an average 21st century human is 45, he will be on one or two maintenance medications. By the time that person
That's
is
crazy.
65,
Yeah.
That's so early.
they'll be on three or four, right? So if you look at the aging curve, we are weak way before we reach the end of our lives. But animals, up until the very end, they can
Yes,
still
it's
hunt.
steady, yeah.
They can still evade predators. They can still fend for themselves. They're still strong. So that's called the compressed morbidity curve, right? You're strong, 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 strong. You suffer a sudden decline and then you die. Humans, in the middle of the life, starts to go down.
Suffering.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
It's
So by the
suffering
time,
for sure.
by the time they're 50, they will say, "Oh, I can't do that anymore. I'm done. I'm over the hill." That's where the term comes from. Over the hill. You're on your way down,
Yeah.
right? But you know, I'm 52. I can still do practically everything that I
Yes,
used to
yeah.
do back when I was still playing college sports. So, uh, eh, and a lot of it is because of this. People think it's genes. Oh, you're very lucky. It's not. It's not.
It's not, right?
It's a deliberate plan. There's a deliberate plan for the way that I age, and I implement this. Just like you go to the gym, you go to the gym to maintain your physique. I have a deliberate routine to maintain the youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does like being in a bad mood all the time contribute to the aging factor?
Yes. Stress,
Stress.
because of what it does to the mitochondria. Without getting too detailed, stress activates a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is the stress
Cortisol, yeah.
hormone,
Yeah.
right? So when that's chronically elevated, you're telling your body that there's danger all the time. So your immune function begins to drop because initially it's going to spike looking for the danger. But if the signal for danger is always there, they're always active. They're looking for what needs to be fixed, but there's nothing that really needs to. So you deplete your immune functions. Over time, you deplete them. If you're chronically stressed, you get sick easier, right? So you notice this when you lack sleep or when you're
Yes.
stressed, you get the colds easier, you get the bug
Yes,
easier.
very
Yeah.
true.
So that's the thing.
Interesting.
thing.
And what's the last
Right.
one?
The
Number
relationship.
5.
Relationships. Oh, that's
I would like to hear about
Yes.
this one.
Oh, okay.
This is
So-
this is.
Because
I didn't see
relationships
this one
bring
coming.
stress too. So.
actually, you know what? Between diet and exercise and sleep, you know what they found to be the biggest factor for longevity? It's the quality of your relationships. So they studied these blue zones. So there are different parts of the world, in Costa Rica, in Japan, in the United States, Greece. There is a disproportionate amount of centenarians, so people who are over 100. So there are lots of them in these places. Different diets, different routines, different habits, right? Different foods. The one thing they all have in common, tight relationships.
That's so interesting.
Tight relationships. Because in these communities, the old interact with the very young, right? And everybody has a job to do. Everybody is included in all the social gatherings. Families are very tight. They're large. Everybody does something. And what they find is that the tighter your relationships are, the longer you tend to live. So here's something very, very interesting for men. For men, do you know what one of the biggest factors to predict your longevity? Right? How long you're going to live. So
Tell
so
me.
so they have this thing called the all cause death. There's this statistic, all cause mortality. Your chances of dying from any cause, right? And the men who had the least all cause mortality deaths, do you know what the
Are
thing
they
was?
in a happy relationship?
No. They're married.
They're married.
Yes.
They're married. Okay.
If you're married, you tend to live longer. Period.
No
Right?
way.
Oh yeah. You don't even have to be happily married. You just have to
need
be
to be
married.
married.
So compared to single men, the incidence
Yeah,
is
I'm
40%.
going to get
like,
married
right?
very soon now.
Well, you
Here's
still
the
have
funny-
time.
Here's the funny thing. For women,
Yeah.
unless you're happily married, there's no effect.
Oh.
For men, you just have to be married.
But
That's
isn't
so
it
interesting.
men live? I
Shorter.
mean, women live longer than men.
Women
in
live
general?
longer.
Yes.
Yeah. Before, that was true in our grandmother's time. But generally, women tend to live about 4 or 5 years longer than men. Uh, there's lots of theories, estrogen and stuff like that. But for women, if you're not happily married, there's no effect.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
That's
There's
not
no
a factor.
effect.
Being
Okay,
married is not a
got it,
factor.
got it,
But
yeah.
for men, you just have to be married or living with someone. We really need
It's
women to
that
take care
easy,
of us.
guys. Just
It's
get married.
Yeah, but yeah. So a toxic relationship, because of the stress,
Yeah.
that's pro-aging. But a relationship, even just a decent one, so if you're having problems, I suggest you try to find a way to fix it, because you're going to live longer. If
That's,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So we covered the
crazy.
basics, right? Those
yeah,
are
we
the
covered
basics.
the basics.
Let's go one more level higher
Right.
and
So this
get
is
into, I don't know, supplementation or new technology, all those things.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets super interesting, right? So I need you guys to realize, especially if you're under 50, if your age, right, under 40, that in the next 15 to 20 years, the average human lifespan is going to be 100 to 120 years, right? So it's not a question of is that going to happen? No, it's a question of when it's going to happen. Because what most people don't realize is that as humans evolve, our lifespan extends, right? I was telling you earlier off cam, in the 1920s, 100 years ago, the average human lifespan was 40 to 44 years. 100 years later, 2020, the average human lifespan is doubled. Now it's 80 to 85
80, yeah.
years, right? And there's something called the longevity escape velocity theory. Have you ever heard of that? Longevity escape velocity? Right. So the reason why we were able to extend our lifespan is because of science. We're discovering antibiotics. We've discovered sanitation, advances in food production. We don't starve anymore. So right now, science can keep you alive for an extra year for every 4 years you are alive. So I'm 52. By the time I'm 56, the average lifespan will be 81 to 85. By the time I'm 60, it will be 82 to 86,
Oh, got it.
right?
Yes.
So every 4 years is an additional 1 year. You are assuming that the progress of science is linear. It's not. It's exponential. The more we learn, the faster it is
Yes.
we discover
Yes.
things. So it's faster and faster and faster. So we're now discovering molecules, we're now discovering interventions that can actually begin to reverse human aging. And for people who study this, longevity medicine, the prediction is that in 12 to 15 years, science will reach a point where for every year you are alive, science can extend your life by another year. So that's called the escape velocity theory. By then, every year you're alive, extension of 1 year, we will have reached the maximum human lifespan, which is believed to be around 120 years. So the oldest living human is 122. That was
Yes.
recorded. So they're saying it's possible for every one of us, because we share the same DNA, to live a maximum of 120, right? So here's the problem. Have you ever seen a 100-year-old
Yes,
man
exactly.
or a woman, right? If you've ever seen somebody who is close to the century mark,
Yeah, and still function properly.
yeah, you know you won't want to go there, because no matter how good your diet is, your exercise is, our bodies are genetically designed to break down. There's a glass ceiling we cannot break. Our bodies will physically deteriorate. And in the next 12 to 15 years, almost everyone will live long enough to watch their bodies physically decay while they are still alive. That is not a very, very pleasant thought.
Still
right?
alive and you can be sick too, right?
Well, yes. Actually,
Hitting that mark like 100 plus
Look.
and you're sick.
if you reach 100 without any scientific intervention, there's no way you're going to leave this world perfectly healthy. So when they say healthy aging, there's no such thing. Because aging, by definition, is the loss of health. The only difference between an old person and a young person is that the young person has full function,
Oh.
all of its physical functions
So
working
that's-
properly,
that's perfect
and the older
definition,
person does not, right? So the older person's immune system is much, much lower. That's why they were the first to die with COVID, right? The young person can smoke, and the chances of getting cancer are relatively slim, right? So here's one way to look at it. If you're 21 and I ask you to smoke a pack of cigarettes every single day for a year, every single day, one pack of cigarettes, I will increase your risk of getting cancer by sixfold. Sevenfold, meaning you're 7 times more likely to get cancer than the next person.
Okay.
Right? Turning 65, even if you have never smoked a cigarette in your entire life, increases your risk of developing cancer by 1,000-fold.
Imagine. That's crazy.
It's crazy. So really, when you talk about disease, like heart disease, like stroke, like cancer, these are the leading causes of death. They're not really diseases. They're just the end stage of life, right? So heart disease begins in your early 20s. So they've already proven this. They've taken autopsies of car crash victims or suicides.
Okay.
They looked at the heart. They can already see the beginning of atherosclerosis or the plaque.
There's
around
already
the-
problems.
It's already started. It's just that it takes 40, 50 years or 60 years or 70 years, depending on your lifestyle, for it to become a full-blown heart attack.
That's
so when
so
they
interesting. I never heard
yeah,
of
yeah.
such thing. Yeah.
So when they say this person died of a natural cause, there's no such thing. Either the heart failed, or the kidney failed, or the liver failed, an organ failed, right? When it happens, if you're 45, they say that's a heart attack. But if your heart fails at 95, oh, that's from natural causes. You're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
too old, right? You're just too old. So without the intervention of science, we will all become frail and sickly and diseased with time, right? The good news is there are now interventions that are coming out that slowly, we believe will be able to reverse human aging. It's already happening now. The molecules are already here. They're just testing it some more, but it's already here. Most of the public, they've never heard of these interventions, but we can talk about some of them if you like.
Wait a
Yes,
minute. It means
Right.
if you're 80 years old and you go through that procedure, you can begin to age backwards?
Right.
Is that the way to put it? Or-
Here's the caveat. They're saying in the next 50 to 100 years that's possible, not in our lifetime.
Okay.
Not in our lifetime. All of these interventions that I'm talking about, I don't want to be grim, but if you're under 65 or if you're over 65, it might be too late, right, to get any significant benefit. But for people your age, right, the implications is tremendous, because the last thing you want to do is not realize you're going to live to 100 and not prepare for it. It's like knowing you have to retire at 65 and not have any savings whatsoever. You're 64, zero savings.
Yeah.
You know you have to stop working at 65. You're not magically going to generate what you need to retire in a year's time, right? So it's the same way here. We are going to live long enough to watch our bodies decay, to wake up with pain, to wake up with frailty, and it's a very, very scary thought.
Yeah,
If you
getting
have
scared
relative, right? You don't want to have to be carried to the toilet, and then have somebody change your diaper. Oh,
You know, like
that's-
our dad always says,
Yeah.
I don't want to live that long and become extremely useless.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he says.
So
right?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. And here is what I'm going to tell your dad, right? He may not have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
Imagine this. If in 15 years' time he is still alive, right? No matter how sick he is. And then we invent technology that can keep him alive even though he's sick. Because we do that all the time, right? We have medicines that can keep people alive for a few years longer. You have the ventilators. You have all of these machines
Yes.
that even if you're in a coma, you're still alive, right? If these interventions are available, even if he wants to die, do you think the kids will let him?
Well, of
Right?
course
If you-
not.
right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
the doctor tells you, we may be still able to save him, you're going to,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So it might not even be your choice, right? You're 100, you want to go
Yeah.
because you're in constant, it might not even be
Yeah,
your
but
choice.
your loved ones want to keep
Yeah.
you.
Exactly,
Yes.
Yeah.
exactly. So the most responsible thing you can do is to learn about this, learn how to age properly so that you're not a burden on your kids, right? So because like I'm 52, my daughter is 5, and I have a son on the way, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's the reason why I'm so dedicated to this, I'm so passionate, is because I don't want them taking care of me when they're 30, they're beginning their family life, and they have to take care of me. You know, a lot of the interventions that we're going to be talking about, because they're very new, they're very expensive. That's the sad reality. Any new technology in its infancy is only for the very few, right? And a lot of people will balk at spending that money. A lot, right? Because it's a lot. But here's an interesting statistic. 90% of people will spend their entire life savings in the last 5% of their life trying to buy back the health that they lost, right? I mean,
Yeah, so
think
invest
about
early.
it. Right. Think about it. You're going to spend the money.
Anyway.
You are going to spend the money. And it's not even about the money. A lot of the things that we're talking about is free. The things that we were
Yes,
discussing.
yeah.
But a lot of people are not going to do that. They're not going to do resistance training. They're not going to do the walks. They're not going to eat clean.
Yeah.
They're not going to sleep.
But I think it's the human thing that
Right.
we don't accept change instantly. It has
Yeah.
to be through a dramatic event
Yes.
until we
Yes,
accept it.
like extreme stress or trauma or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Exactly. So either you choose to change or you will be forced to.
Yes.
You know, in our clinics, 90% of the people, when they come to me because they're already hypertensive, they're diabetic, they've suffered a heart attack, they have cancer, right? Which could have been prevented 20 years ago, right? If you'd have started this now, what I'm going to tell you to do,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have gotten to this point.
Yeah, and that's hard to hear though.
Yes.
That's hard.
But
Yeah.
they
Very
come
hard
to
to
me because they know it's either I do something about it now or I die within the next 5 years. So, and yet even though I'm saying this, even though it's very, very, the benefits of staying in your physical prime or close to physical prime for as long as possible. Can you imagine having that body still 20 years from now?
Yeah.
Still being able to do what it is that you love to do,
Yes.
whether it's hiking.
It affects
or-
your whole life, right?
It affects your whole life.
Your
The minute you begin,
relationships, everything.
everything.
Yeah.
The minute you begin to lose mobility, the minute you begin to lose functionality, your quality of life begins to plummet, right? And most people will not pay the price now. But I promise you, because I've seen this enough times in 10
Yes.
years of doing this, the piper will be paid, right? The piper will come to, I'm not sure, you know that children's, the Pied Piper?
Piper.
You know that he plays his flute to
I've-
lure the mice.
I've
Oh,
seen
okay.
it. But
Right. So
Yeah.
sorry, you might not understand what. So yeah, the tax collector will come to
Okay,
collect.
gotcha.
Right. You have to pay the dues. So whether you pay it now or you pay it with interest later on, it's really your choice.
So the new supplements that you talked about.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
So there are supplements that are being developed right now. So they're called senolytics, xenomorphics, rapalogs. So let me explain. These are molecules that have been shown to significantly delay, or in some cases even reverse, the aging process. Like there are some molecules when you give them to mice, it's been shown that the mice live 30% longer. So in human terms, 30% of 80 years is about 120 years, right?
Yeah.
If it works on mice and if it works on us, then you're looking at a dramatic lifespan extension. But here's the thing. They also become stronger. They have less disease. And when they die, they are much more robust, right? The hair is still black. The body is still muscular.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So that's the dream, right? You want to be playing tennis in the morning when you're 100 years old, go to sleep after having a lovely dinner with your family, and then not wake up,
Exactly, yes.
right? Instead of it takes you 10 years to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So there are molecules, the xenomorphics are called NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. You can actually get that through a drip, or you can buy a precursor molecule called NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. And you take that, and that's what you need to make NAD. So NAD is something that you have in abundance of when you're young, But as you get older, you get less and less of that. And NAD is responsible, among other things, for extracting energy from the food that you eat.
Okay.
So if you eat food, you can't really use the carbohydrates and the fats, right?
Yes.
You don't use that. You take hydrogen, you take the hydrogen from the carbons of your food, and then you run it through an electron transport chain to get energy. Without NAD, you cannot extract those hydrogen. So older people, when they lose and when they lose NAD, they begin to lose energy, right? And when the cells don't have energy to work, that's when they begin to lose their function and die. That's the start of aging.
So
So,
when is a good time to take those supplements? Like at what age?
okay, it's a very, very nuanced question, right? And the answer is it really depends. The best thing for you to do if you want to go that far is really to test. Because even there are, ideally, when you're young, you will have about 40 millimolars in your bloodstream, right, of NAD that's circulating. They find that as you get older, this drops. So generally, when you're 50, by the time you're 50, it's only 20. But here's where the nuance comes in. If your lifestyle is good, even if you're 50, you can still have 40 millimolars. And if your lifestyle is bad, you can be 17 and have 10 millimolars.
Okay.
Right? So if you really want to maximize, you can test, and then based on the test, you can start taking the supplements. And another thing I want to warn people of, these supplements, AKG, alpha ketoglutarate, NMN, stuff like that. If your lifestyle is poor, you are throwing money down the toilet. Because these molecules will work only if the lifestyle is on point. You always start with that. It's like me saying, you know what, Sam, they discovered this new anti-cancer medication. It reduces your risk of lung cancer by 50%.
And you can continue eating processed food.
Yeah, but
it will work.
if I give you that and you still continue smoking a pack
Yeah,
of cigarettes
yeah,
a day,
yeah.
nothing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So the lifestyle has to be on point. Another thing that is interesting on the horizon that's already here that most people don't realize is that you can now actually use aging clocks to measure your actual biological age. So that's the difference between the age on your birth certificate versus the actual age of your body. We now have the technology to measure the age of your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidney, your brain. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to look for a bottleneck, right? Because your organs are aging at different rates. So even if you had the heart of a 20-year-old, but you have the liver of a 65-year-old, if your liver gives out, you're still going to die.
Okay.
So they take blood samples.
They
right?
take a blood
Why
sample.
can't we create something like
It's already here.
a swab test?
Ah,
Like
okay.
take your saliva and then
you
be
need
like,
the blood,
okay.
I guess.
And then
So for now, because most of the metabolites and it's circulating in the blood, right?
Yeah.
Your blood in your veins, that's the super highway of your body. So it's always easier to measure it there. But they're saying, it's not here yet, the scientists are studying, I don't, in China they're already doing this, smart urinals, wherein you pee, and then they will tell you, oh, you're lacking this.
That's
you
so
have this,
convenient.
That's
you have
the
this.
best
Oh,
thing ever.
yeah. The technologies are actually, the technology is actually already here.
Interesting.
You know, before, if you wanted to test, so one of the leading causes of death, cancer for men is colon cancer, right? Before, when they would test you, they'd have to have a probe. They had to stick a probe in your rear end, right? Now, they have a kit called a colon guard for pennies that you can buy, and you could take your stool, you put it there, you send it back to the lab, and they'll tell you if there are cancer proteins already in your stool. If you have none, then it means you don't have to do that colon exam anymore.
Yes.
So it's getting
It's
there.
slowly there.
It's slowly getting there. The diagnostics are
But this is
slowly
really
getting there.
helpful, especially if you're younger and you go through this whole blood test and
Yeah.
you're aware of where you're lacking,
Yeah.
right? For
Exactly.
example, your liver is a bit damaged and you can talk to a doctor and prevent.
Exactly.
It's really helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because right now, most people, they'll have their labs done. They don't even know how to interpret it. I mean,
Yeah, because it's
it's
of
just-
course, yeah.
it seems that it seems okay.
Yeah.
It says it's normal. Actually, yeah, that's a whole different topic. But I just need people to understand that the blood test, the normal healthy range, that's not the normal healthy range. That's a population average. it means 95% of the population fall within those
Okay.
boundaries.
Yeah.
So if you will tell me that 90% of the population is healthy, then I will accept that as healthy range. Otherwise, you have to be on the optimal range for your age, for your sex. You know what I'm saying?
And you are at the optimal.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
You are.
Hopefully, yes. There are some things that you really can't. I mean, like cancer.
Yeah.
You really can't. So, but as much as I can, as much as I can control what I can, I do, and it doesn't take much. So that's what a lot of people. Oh, you mean I have to eat everything? It's organic. I have to eat everything. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. No, if you eat clean 80% of the time, the rest of the 20% you're bulletproof, right? You mean I have to work out for 2 hours a day, go to the car? No, you work out for 15 minutes a day, you're fine. So a lot of the things that make people hesitant to embark on this lifestyle, it's just that they've been taught. That's what we've been taught. The fitness industry wants you to believe that no, you have to come to us.
Yeah.
You have to be here for an hour every day for 5 times a week, right? Because they're selling the health business, right? It's
Yes.
all industry. And the food industry, they're the worst. They'll take cereal, dump tons of sugar in it, additives, fake vitamins, and then they'll say it's a healthy food, right?
Yeah.
They say it's a health. And then all the kids, I mean, a lot of kids are obese. When I was growing up in my time, you would hardly see an obese kid.
Now
I
They're
don't
so
know,
active,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're very few.
Yeah.
I mean, there would be
Yeah.
one or two in
Yeah.
your.
We were
in your-
so thin back
Yeah.
then.
Exactly.
Like, extremely
Exactly.
thin because we were always running,
Yeah.
biking.
Exactly. And we didn't
Non-stop.
have that much processed food back then.
Yeah.
We didn't have that much processed food. But yeah, now, yeah, the reason why we're becoming, I don't want to say it's money or it's business that's causing us. It's really just a complete departure
Right.
from the way we were designed. So what most people have to understand is that every one of us, we were born, these are Ferraris. These are the best of the best. These are high precision instruments, right? That we're born with. But because we see Ferraris, every other person is a Ferrari, we take it for granted, right? Even a Ferrari, if I put diesel in your tank and I run you on rough road, you're not going to work, right? You're going to break down. And then they're going to say, oh, Ferraris are no good. No, you put the right kind of fuel, you put it in the smooth racetrack, and then you're going to see what it
Yeah.
can really do, right? So it's the same with the human body. That's a precision instrument. Can you imagine? Your body is keeping you at an optimal state. Your blood pressure, 120/80. Your heart rate, 50 to 60 beats per minute. Your temperature, 36.5, 36.6. It doesn't really deviate, right? And when it does, your body brings it back down so that you're always going to be optimal. It senses the environment and it makes all of these thousands, millions of adjustments every second.
It's like an adaptation machine.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly, Sam. Your body is an adaptation machine. And when it breaks down, when it gets sick, when you get fat, when you get weak, I take one look at you and I know what your lifestyle is. Because the reason why it doesn't happen to you or you is because you live a certain lifestyle. The reason why it happened to Mr. X or Miss Y is because they live a certain life. That's not chance. That's not genes.
Right.
You chose to eat that. You chose to just sit around and do nothing. You chose to stay indoors. You chose to isolate yourself, not sleep. And the body's adjusting.
But I'm curious to know because you deal with a lot of patients, clients. What is it that stops them doing the things that they know they should be doing and then end up coming back to you? Because there must be a pattern there,
Awesome.
right?
Awesome.
In the mindset, whether I don't know what it is.
Awesome.
I would like to hear it from you.
So number one for me, information. Information. Because we have been told that it is inevitable to get weak, fat, sick with age, then we accept it.
Yeah,
When
people
we reach our
accept it like that.
30s, when we reach our, we accept it. Ah, it's just aging. There's nothing I can do. And because that's the information you have, why should I try? It's inevitable. I'm old, he's young, he looks that way because he's young. It has nothing to do with lifestyle, but it has everything to do with habits. So this is going to be a very, very long conversation, but just feel free to edit it out, right? So I'll tell you what the number two reason. Number one is information, is because we believe it's inevitable. Number two is habits, right? Habits. Very, very simple. What does it mean? When you're young, you can get away with a lot of bad habits. You can get away with a lot of bad habits. Why? Because in the development stage of life, so people, you've heard the saying, we've been dying since the day we were born, right?
Yeah.
That's actually not true. You spend the first 21 years of your life developing into a physical prime. You're developing, you're not dying, you're still growing. From an infant, you grow to adulthood. When you hit puberty, that's when you start to shoot up, you start to develop the muscles and stuff. When you hit puberty, 12, 13, your growth hormones, your anabolic hormones, HGH, testosterone, progesterone, all of these hormones begin to shoot up. They are 600 times higher than they are as an adult, right? And when the reason why these hormones shoot up is because to develop takes a lot of energy. And the job of these hormones is to take every available fuel, i.e. fat, and convert it into energy, right? So fat is just energy that we're stored. Like our fat cells, they're just like refrigerators for energy that we don't use during the day. And because you need to eat anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 calories a day when you're growing, that's when your metabolism is fastest, you can't possibly eat that every day. So your body has to find a way to be able to access all of these fats. That's why it's very, very hard to get fat when you're a teenager, when you're shooting up, right?
Yeah.
And so imagine this. You can drink the soda, you can eat the cake, you can eat the chips, you're going to eat all the junk food,
Still
right?
remain thin.
And your body is going to, nope, give me that energy.
Yeah.
Give me that energy. At night when you're sleeping, you know, when you wake up, you see the growth spurts, right?
Yeah.
It's when you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, that's when those hormones are highest. But you're not eating. Where are they getting the energy? They're getting it from your fat, right? So it takes so much energy to develop, but once you're physically developed, right? 21, when you stop growing vertically, right? That's when people start growing horizontally. Because when the hormones begin to go back down, you basically have that optimum hormone profile for about 3 or 4 years. So 21 to 25, right? And then after that, it will begin to decline, right? So all of a sudden, the junk food, the sodas, all those late nights, I didn't really change my diet. How come I'm getting fatter?
Now they're poison.
Yes. Now your body doesn't need that much energy. Now you're beginning to store them, right? And as you store more energy, you become weaker. You become sicker. And when you become weaker, you want to move less. You don't have the energy, right? So a lot of people, when they come to me, you can tell when they walk in the door, they're slow.
Yeah.
They move slow, they sit slow, they stand, because they have zero energy. And then to tell them, okay, now you need to exercise, that's a disaster. Because they can't even get up in the
Yeah.
morning
No
to
way,
right, right. So they don't realize the habits that they had when they were younger, they can no longer do them when they're older. It's not your age. That's the problem. Your age is simply revealing the bad habits, right? Because you don't have the bulletproof vest anymore.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're not Superman anymore. They don't realize that I didn't really change. I'm actually eating less now. How come I'm still getting fatter? Because you're still eating less of the wrong foods. That's why you're still overeating, right? So, yeah. The thing that stops them is the lack of information and the unwillingness to change habits. It's very, very hard to change a habit,
Okay.
Yeah.
right? Even if you know that it's bad for you, like smoking, you know it's bad for you, but people who smoke, they can't give it up. So,
I think we covered a lot of things.
But
Oh, yeah.
one last thing, I want to get into stem cells and HGH a
Yeah.
bit.
oh, cool.
Yeah, because
Are you planning on?
It's interesting,
yeah, I
right?
love it. When I've seen people taking it, they look really good. Like Joe Rogan takes it. Like
The who?
Joe Rogan, the guy.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right.
So they take stem cells, I guess.
So, okay. Again, without becoming too technical.
Yeah.
So let's talk about stem cells first.
Yeah.
So when people say stem cells, you assume it's one thing. It's a stem cell. Basically, a stem cell is a blank cell that can turn into any cell that the body needs. So your stem cells, when they're in the heart, they will turn into a heart stem cell, and it will beat. For the eyes, it will turn into the eyes, and you can see, right? For the skin. But there are actually many, many different types of stem cells, right? So what you want is a type of stem cell that is called a pluripotent stem cell. So a pluripotent stem cell is literally a cell that can turn into any cell.
Like a
Because-
supercell.
Because, yes. Because some cells can only turn into skin cells.
Right.
Some cells can only turn into bone. And if you put a bone cell in the liver, that's disaster, right? So the the problem with a pluripotent stem cells, the kind that babies have, right? So the embryo, the reason why they're freezing embryos is for precisely for that purpose.
Yeah.
The stem cells are pluripotent. This is what allows an egg and a sperm to join, and from that one single cell multiply into 50 trillion cells, right? It's because of the stem cells. So the pluripotent stem cell, when they inject it in mice, 100% of the time turns cancerous. So, right, until they're able to find out why, it's not really something that I would give us a blanket recommendation. Although, like I said, you don't have to go with the pluripotent, the the pluripotent stem cells. There are other stem cells that are localized that have been shown to work. So the stem cells for ligaments and the bones,
Yeah.
so those work. So for people with joint pains,
Or
they've been-
injuries.
or
Okay.
injuries, yes,
Yeah.
they've been clinically shown. And I was telling you about a new technology that can allow women who are menopausal to regain their cycle and conceive again.
Yeah.
So that's a combination of certain proteins and certain stem cells, right? And but to take it as an anti-aging intervention, I wouldn't say we're there yet, but we are getting there.
Okay.
Definitely, we are getting there. With regards to HGH, the human growth hormone, the studies are mixed. There are studies that show that HGH combined with other molecules does extend human lifespan. And there are studies that show that overactivation of the growth pathways can lead to cancer.
So we are
keep
not
it
quite
off,
there
yeah.
yet.
No, not
So
quite
it's
there
still
yet. But it's
risky.
very, yeah. It's to me, it's a bit risky. But here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, yeah, what if I take HGH? Do you know what a natural booster of HGH is?
Tell us.
Yes.
Sleep.
Sleep.
Oh, no.
Well, we
That is the number one
Made us
anti-aging.
excited and in sleep.
So here's the thing.
So just sleep.
HGH is produced in the pituitary gland between the hours of 10 and 2 a.m. 10 p.m., 2 a.m., right? That's when it's maximally produced, during deep sleep. And so when you're sleeping at 12 or 1 or 2, you've already shut down that window.
Oh.
Right?
So you
So-
want to sleep before 10? Around
Yeah.
10.
So the reason why I monitor my sleep, so you can, my wife knows this. For us, it's lights out by 9. Whether whatever you're watching on Netflix, whatever you're doing on social media, lights out at 9. We sleep, right? And then our phones don't come back on until 6 the
Okay.
following day. So that's very, very important. Another thing is sauna.
Okay, sauna, yes.
Testosterone in infrared sauna
Testosterone.
that's been shown. Weightlifting, resistance training, dramatic improvement, and competition. So if you're a competitive, so if you like competing, it boosts testosterone for some
Oh,
reason.
interesting.
Yes,
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These
Good
are
to
really
know.
good
These
tips.
are the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are the things that you can do. It doesn't cost money. You want to lower testosterone? I'll show you how.
What do you do to lower testosterone?
Be around pregnant women. So if
Be
your
around-
wife is pregnant, your testosterone goes down.
Why is that?
How is
I think it's because in nature the man has to be around to take care of the woman, and when you're pregnant you can't really hunt or forage effectively. You need the mate. You need the male to do that. And so the theory is, in order for nature to keep you with the female and make sure that the baby survives, drops your testosterone so you don't look for sex with other women.
Oh.
Right. That's yeah.
Oh, that's
So yeah, so your
insane,
testosterone drops
See
when
the
you're
effect
around the
women have on
pregnant-
us.
They have effect on everything.
Yeah. So
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Let's dive into
Right.
some quick questions.
Yeah.
Like, what is the best advice you've ever received, or you can give to someone?
Yeah, or
So-
to the
yeah,
young
more
20
light,
years.
yeah.
20
Okay.
years. Yeah.
So this is not my advice. This is from the science, right? The number one anti-aging pill that we have in the market right now is exercise.
Exercise.
Yeah. Walk for an hour a day. Lift heavy things. That's it. 15
Okay.
minutes. Lift heavy things. Stress your muscles correctly, and that's one thing, right? Again, obviously, sleep eat whole foods.
Yeah.
But I think since they already know that, I think my number one advice would be plan for your marginal decade. Plan for, so the marginal decade is the last 10 years of your life. What do you want that to look like, right? Do you want to be carried to the bathroom? Do you want to be stuck at home while everybody else is out hiking or traveling? Or do you want to still be able to carry the groceries? Do you still want to be able to carry your great grandchild and put him or her to bed? Now, when I say plan, um, this is called backcasting. Backcasting. So, what does this mean? If at 90 years old, I still want to be able to carry my great grandchild up to her room and put her to bed, then I have to think. A child will weigh about 40 pounds, right? A 5-year-old will weigh about 40 pounds. And if I know that I will lose 10% of my strength every decade, that means I'll lose half of my strength from 50 to 90. If I want to be able to carry 40 pounds then, I should be able to carry 80 pounds now.
Okay.
So I'm working backwards,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm making sure that if that's my goal, right, to have a high physiologic headroom, I should be able to do it now. So I'll give you an example. Back when I was in college, when I was still lifting weights, my maximum bench press, 1 rep max, was around 320 pounds. I could lift 320 pounds for 1 rep, right? I try to do that now at 50. I did that during the pandemic. I was 51. My 1 rep max was 300.
Oh,
So
that's
there's
very
not-
close.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
close.
very
So
close.
not much has changed,
Yeah.
right? But you'll encounter this you go to the gym, I'm sure, right? So you'll encounter this over the next 15, 20 years. Like people who stopped and you knew that you were working out with them before, you knew what they could do.
Yeah.
They would not be able to do that at 50 anymore. Once they stop, once they let themselves go,
Right,
they
yeah.
won't be able to do that anymore, right? So there's the very, very big difference between planning to still be able to do that and just letting yourself age like you're trying to win the lottery.
That's a
I'll
really
just buy a
good
ticket.
point.
Let's see what happens, right? The chances that you're going to age optimally, if that's your strategy, to like buying a lottery ticket,
Yeah.
very slim to none. Right? Very slim to none.
You have a very interesting perspective. So
Thank
I
you.
know this is a very common question, right? But you know, you're successful, you're healthy,
Thank you.
you look younger than most men are. I guess 99, 98% of men
Thank you.
in their 50s and everything. So how do you define success at this stage of your
Awesome.
life?
Awesome. So for me, this is going to sound like a cliche, but because I've been very, very fortunate, we've been very, very fortunate business-wise. You really, when you get to a certain point where money is no longer the end goal, that's when you begin to realize that really health
Is number
health
one.
is wealth.
Mhm.
All the money in the world. I have had relatives who are multi-billionaires. One accident, they can't walk. They would give all their money to be able to move pain-free again,
Mhm.
right? They would buy any medical intervention. So what I'm saying is, if you are healthy, then everything else that matters in life, your relationships, you can take care of them because you're not stressed about anything else. It all begins with having a sound mind and body. So my definition of success, especially going into my older years, is to be able to remain strong for my family. That's my definition.
Amazing,
Amazing, yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you can provide for them the way you should,
Mhm.
ideally, hopefully.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much
Oh,
for
it's been-
coming on
it's
the
my pleasure.
podcast.
It's
I
my
think
pleasure.
Thank you. We really enjoyed this.
We
Yeah.
sit down beside you. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
thank
I've
you.
learned a lot.
Thank you.
I would love to have you back again.
Thank
We'll
you.
research more.
Yeah,
Thank
when
you.
there's some developments.
You know, before we go, we're actually opening a longevity center.
Yes,
so this
please.
Is,
Let
Yeah.
people
so
know.
this is going to be the first of its kind in the Philippines. So it's called the House of Gaia. It's a resort type facility where we have it's members only. We will invite the members to stay there for a certain period of the year. So ideally at least 7 days of a year where we can give them the interventions and teach them, give them the tools that they need. And the goal of every member is to reach 100 years strong.
That's
Right.
amazing.
Reach
Wow.
100
And
years
that's
strong.
where you get the real secrets of reverse aging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The real,
Yes.
real
Yes.
secrets.
Yeah,
Yes.
the ones that
That's where
he's
you
not
get the
going
real
to share
secret.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if we had 3 months of continuous, then I could share.
There's
But
so much, right?
yeah,
There's
there's
so
just
much.
so
so
much.
much.
There's
And
just-
where
there's
can
so
people
much.
find you?
Yes. Yeah.
On social media, it's Mike Chan on Facebook, Mike Chan Official on Instagram, and our site is thescienceofagingwell.net. That's where they can find us, or you can visit us our clinic, Lumiere Anti-Aging and Skin Center,
Or House of Gaia.
or House of Gaia when it
Gaia.
opens. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Oh, it's
so
my
much.
thank you.
Thank
Thank